OpenAI launches self-serve ChatGPT ads platform. Every ChatGPT thread now runs a background auction on the full context. Enterprise buyers who once treated the model as a secure workspace face new leakage risks from ad data flows. Anthropic has to either strip similar monetization from Claude or watch its enterprise win rate drop as privacy reviews lengthen. Mid-market teams will demand contract clauses that isolate prompts from any ad engine. Anthropic forms $1.5 billion Wall Street AI deployment venture. Portfolio companies backed by Blackstone and Goldman now receive embedded Claude engineers funded through the new vehicle. This shifts the sales cycle from pilot budgets to multi-year deployment mandates that favor the largest models. Smaller AI startups lose their window to prove value inside those firms. OpenAI has to build matching industry teams fast or see its private equity footprint shrink by the end of next year. Anthropic secures SpaceX Colossus compute deal. 300 megawatts of dedicated capacity moves Anthropic's largest training jobs off shared grids. The equivalent of 220,000 GPUs lets them run parallel experiments that smaller labs cannot afford to schedule. OpenAI and Google both face pressure to sign similar exclusive power deals before their own roadmaps slip another 6 months. This also raises the bar for any new entrant trying to reach frontier scale without utility-level connections. Apple plans third-party AI model choice in iOS 27. Default model selection passes to App Store apps in the next major OS releases. Apple keeps the interface while ceding inference quality decisions to third parties that already run their own clouds. Google gains an on-ramp to iOS users that bypasses Safari entirely. OpenAI must ship a lightweight on-device variant within 18 months or watch its mobile share erode. Developers gain new hooks to route specific tasks to specialized models without building custom integrations. Meta builds agentic AI assistant with Instagram shopping. Once Hatch learns your taste from past scrolls, it can reorder items and complete buys without leaving the app. That timeline to late 2026 gives merchants a narrow window to tag inventory for agent consumption. Brands relying on impulse visual feeds face lower visibility as structured data wins priority. Shopify integrations will need to match or risk losing the social checkout slice entirely. Amazon, Coinbase, Stripe enable AI agent stablecoin payments. Agents can settle for API access and data feeds without waiting on billing cycles. This setup pressures providers to publish dynamic pricing that agents can evaluate on the fly, which squeezes fixed-rate margins across the board. Coinbase handles the stablecoin side, so any latency and on-ramps will determine which agent platforms gain an edge in transaction-heavy workflows. Stripe's participation signals broader acceptance for agent-driven commerce loops. White House considers pre-release AI model vetting. Any model crossing internal capability thresholds would undergo federal review for misuse vectors before launch. Labs lose the element of surprise on release timing, which hands established players extra runway to lock in customers. Open source efforts face the heaviest burden since they cannot easily restrict access post-vetting. Smaller teams might delay public checkpoints altogether to avoid the queue, widening the gap with well-resourced competitors. Google tests Remy autonomous AI agent for Gemini. Users grant broad access once, and the agent immediately starts booking meetings or filtering mail based on observed patterns without further instruction. That raises immediate questions around data leakage when third-party apps join the loop. Calendar providers must update consent flows to separate agent actions from user commands. Enterprise teams will demand full audit logs for every automated change before signing off. OpenAI rolls out GPT 5.5 Instant as ChatGPT default. Granular memory toggles now let users scrub individual facts mid-conversation. The real edge emerges later when the model starts weighting which corrections it retains and which it discards. This turns every session into silent fine-tuning. The hallucination drop accelerates adoption in professional workflows where one bad recall used to break trust. Rivals have roughly 6 months to ship comparable persistence or watch their active users drift toward the new default. AI-driven layoffs accelerate across tech sector. Automation claims mask the real target, coordination work that once required 2 or 3 full-time translators between teams. Agents now log decisions and flag blockers in the same workflow. The result is fewer mid-level salaries, but also less redundancy when outages occur. Cloudflare and Upwork both pointed to agentic tools in their restructuring notes. Expect smaller companies to struggle filling those gaps with experienced hires through the end of next year. Big Tech agrees to U.S. government AI security testing. Access to pre-release weights lets officials map misuse vectors while the models are still malleable. The commitment covers cyber risks and military misuse scenarios that public benchmarks still ignore. Labs gain a fast track for certain clearances, but lose the element of surprise on capability jumps. Smaller players without direct channels to the same reviewers now carry extra proof burden when pitching to risk-averse customers. That gap widens through the next funding cycle. Anthropic unveils dreaming for self-improving AI agents. Agents replay overnight traces to surface patterns in their own errors. The technique works best in narrow domains like code review and trade execution, where success leaves clear logs. Once those loops run continuously, off-the-shelf models lose ground because every deployment now ships with yesterday's fixes baked in. Expect dedicated agent platforms to pull ahead on task-specific benchmarks before the end of the year.